All right, looks like we up and running here. So, welcome everybody. It's the D&D Trash Talk podcast. It's Dre here when I got my boy Dez on. So, it's been about a week since actually maybe 2 weeks since we've been on here together. So, Dez, how you feeling today, man?
Feeling good. We had a good week of college football. We got another big week coming up, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. I agree, man. A lot of the last 2 weeks have been, all to pretty much expected. A lot of exciting games, some upsets, some close to being upsets, um, some surprises too. But I was kind of like thinking about, okay, what should we kind of talk about in terms of college football, and you know, first things first. We got to talk about Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. It's year four for him, as we said, in our preseason show. This is a make or break year. You have to show that you're making progression and that the program is heading in the right direction. And the only way to do that, is to start beating your rivals or winning big games on the road, the games that either you are at an even level in terms of talent or maybe even an underdog. So, um, of course, week one, as we will kind of break down, once again they lose. They lose on the road to Notre Dame. I believe the final score was, what, 24-21 or something like that?
Either 24-21 or yeah, it was a one possession game, nonetheless.
Gotcha. All right. So look, I give you my take on it, but what do you think about what you saw from Michigan in week one, and also going to week two? Maybe like your takeaway. Then I kind of go first, or what do you want to do? Want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first. I think with Michigan, it's concerning to me because I look at that defense. That's an elite defense. Whether nonetheless how they played in the game, that is an elite defense. And the fact that you give up three touchdowns in the first half to a pretty much an offensive minded football team like that to me is concerning because you've got, and you never want to look down the road, but down the road you've got some pretty tough offenses that you have, that you're going to face down the stretch and in a tough stretch for your team. So that part to me is concerning that, that you give up three touchdowns to a quarterback who's, I want to give Wimbush the benefit of the doubt, so I'll call him an above average quarterback, but in general, his career has been 50% completion percentage, and he's a run-first guy. So that part is concerning. And also, too, that, it's year four for, Jim Harbaugh, and your offense looks no different than last year. Last year, that was the big, push and the big talk, with Michigan fans was, oh, well, we don't have a quarterback. We don't have a guy. Well, you got, the tiers don't get any better than Shea Patterson. He's a five-star kid, so they don't get any better than what you have there. And the offense still it just looks unorganized. You're discombobulated. You're just all over, and you can't protect. That was another, big thing coming out of training camp was, oh, the offensive line looks so good. They look better, so on and so forth. I didn't really see a difference. That looked like the same offense to me that John O'Corn was running last year and Brandon Peters was running last year. I didn't see a big difference. So for me, if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm concerned because Ohio State is a machine that's in Columbus, Ohio, and they are absolutely rolling right now. There's no, even with everything that they have going on right now as a program, they aren't missing a beat. They are down there destroying teams. So,
Yeah.
Granted they have some other hurdles to get over first, but nonetheless, it's just concerning because, like I said, this is the year that you're thinking, we're going to break through. We're going to get to that Big Ten title game. We're going to, the playoff is a possibility. And, I'm looking at it right now, and if I'm a Michigan fan that's realistic, it's just not happening.
Yeah, Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of what you said. Now, when it comes to Ohio State, yeah, they're definitely rolling. Dwayne Haskins looks like he's legit. Um, I mean, he's a huge guy. He's like 6'4", 240, really good arm. But they're going to have a pretty good test this upcoming weekend versus at TCU. So TCU's playing pretty well too. So I look forward to that night game at Tech. I think it's neutral site, or maybe I think it is neutral site, but it's basically in Tech. It is in Texas. So um, let's see what they do against a better opponent. When it comes to Michigan, however, that was like the most um, I guess jarring thing to see with them is that the offense flow and the play calling was so pedestrian, so like lacking in creativity. It looked like Jim Harbaugh basically just got hired mid-season, and they were trying to condense the playbook so the guys can have at least something to run to be semi-effective. That did not look like a year four uh, tenured team. Well, a year four team under the same coach with all these coordinators from the NFL and all this experience. That looked nothing like that. They looked like a high school staff, running a
I
very
mean,
simple offense.
there's teams that have that their quarterback got there in the fall, and their offense had more of a flow. And Shea Patterson has been there since January.
Yeah.
So you're talking 9 months that all he had was just Michigan football. I mean, and granted, I didn't diagnose everything from snap to snap, but I didn't really see many RPOs, and
Yeah.
that's basically for Shea. That's what he excelled at with Ole Miss. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's tough to not start to call into question Jim Harbaugh and what he is doing there, because I mean, dude, you're an offensive guru, quote unquote. You're a quarterback whisperer, but the two things that you're known for have been the worst, things at Michigan since you've been there. The defense has been elite essentially since he stepped on campus, and he's got nothing to do with it. So that's also the part that you start to get concerned with. It's like, we're paying you $9 million a year, with all your life insurance and all this other stuff, and our offense is the worst part of our team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like I said. That was like the most jarring thing for me is seeing how the offense looks. I will say this, because I I can't tell if their lack of creativity or expansion in their playbook is due to inaptitude from the coaching staff or just inaptitude from the play of the offensive line. I mean, they were so bad against Notre Dame that any kind of play to me, any kind of play, and I know that our staff has to figure it out, that requires some progression. A few more seconds for Shea to look down the field, maybe off a play action or shotgun or even single back to give time for DPJ and Nico Collins to get down the field. Grant Perry as well. I don't think their offensive line would have was not, and would have continued to not give them a chance to run those type of plays and be effective. So that was
But
kind of my takeaway.
but see, at the same time, to me, I understand 100% what you're saying, but also as a coach, especially at the big time level, is okay. So even if I get into halftime and I know Notre Dame's bringing pressure, they're blitzing, they want to make sure that they get pressure on us. Okay, let's make an adjustment to some 6-7 man protection to where we do get time. You know what I mean? We're keeping in a tight end. We're keeping in a running back to where, Shea's got a little bit of time, and maybe you only can read half the field or so on and so forth, but you can make adjustments. And while the O-line may not have been playing great, it's tough to if you've got 7 man in a 7-man protection where, you don't have any time. So I think to that point, like, it's either got to be short passes, quick passes, 3 steps, and when you're in the shotgun, that's pretty much a catch and throw type deal. Or you got to adjust and get 7 men in protection. You got to protect them and give them time. Because once you get out of halftime, you're at the spot where you know you have to throw the football to get back in the game.
Yeah.
And so you just have to make adjustments. Like that, I mean, that is college football. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. And that's, I can't defend that part. Like, I don't even like trying to defend the coach staff. I even was puzzled at the wall. Like, gosh, as bad as we're playing on the O-line, there's much penetration that Notre Dame is getting. Wow, what can we really do outside of what we're doing right now? Now, this past weekend, Michigan bounced back. They blew out Western Michigan 49-3, and I would say, unlike previous years, the Michigan fan base isn't totally drinking Kool-Aid. Like, they understand that. From what I saw on Twitter, from talking to people, no one's really getting overly hyped over that win. I mean, everybody, they pretty much did what they were supposed to do. They beat a much inferior team. They beat them soundly, but there were still a few things that maybe I'm being a little picky. That I'm like, gosh, I wish we could have done more. Shea Patterson only threw for 125 yards. I guess the way I looked at it, and me and you kind of talk about this all the time, is that when you're playing these quote-unquote cupcake teams, maybe that's a little disrespectful, but like teams that are just not at your level, you should try to focus majority on your weaknesses. Air it out, and they did it a little. They did a little bit. They finally got a receiver. This is crazy, right? So the touchdown pass to Nico Collins was almost a day. It was a day short of a full year since the last receiver touchdown they've had.
Yeah,
it's crazy, right? I mean, think about that. A full year since a receiver for the University of Michigan has called a touchdown. I mean, that's crazy. So that should tell you something right there. Like, what, Pep? You a passing coordinator, Jim? I mean, what's going on? How can you not get the ball to the receivers in the end zone? I mean, it just makes no sense. But anyway, they had a few passing touchdowns, but I kept seeing that play action, screens, quick rollout passes, and maybe that's just Harbaugh's offense. I guess I'm expecting some kind of case in point. I watched. I don't know if you did. I don't believe you did, but I watched the Arizona State MSU game, which we'll get into shortly, because MSU lost that game, and I was just totally locked into the TV because it was air it out. Lewerke was airing the ball out the shotgun. Same thing for Manny Wilkins for Arizona State, and it was so exciting to watch. Even if the plays that they didn't complete, just seeing guys being athletic, taking shots down the field. It spreads the whole thing out, and then you could run the ball. I hate this archaic offense where it's like this dink and dunk, quick rollouts to the tight end or fullback, check downs to the running back, maybe quick little curls to your receivers. I just hate it. There's no excitement. There's no I guess it's very low risk, low reward, as opposed to at times, take some high risk, high reward type plays. I just don't see it, and it's very, very irritating for me. Maybe I'm out of line. What do you think?
Well, I think when you look at the state of college football and defensive coordinators, I mean, if they eat that stuff alive, it just is what it is. I mean, you've got defensive coordinators nowadays in college football that are breaking down NFL film, to be more prepared for what they see. So if you're telling me that you're not taking any shots, and honestly, this is when, in 2016 when Clemson beat Alabama in the national championship, this was the issue. It was that Alabama was not pushing the ball vertical down the field. It was a lot of underneath throws or running the ball. Well, I mean, you can potentially get 11 guys within 6-7 yards of the football, and you know that for the most part everything's going to be in front of you. And that is something that with the state of the athletes at this level, you just can't do that. Like, you can't be successful just the dink and dunk, the 5 yards here and there, the underneath throws, the screens, the bubble screens, and the run game, and thinking that against elite defenses and elite teams that you're going to have success. I mean, I look at Arizona State, and I didn't watch the whole game, but I mean, when they had success, it was when they started going vertical down the field. Their quarterback started taking chances and started pushing the ball vertically, and that's when they started having success. And you have to have that element in your offense nowadays if you want to be successful at big time football, no matter what conference you play in. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to come out and just be that dominant against a team that's elite that can get it done on the defensive end. You've got to pressure. You got to put pressure on them. You have to make them think that there's a possibility we're going to take a shot over the top, or we can run the ball, or we've got the short game. You can't be predictable on offense and expect to have success. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. In other words, you're not going to line up in the I form. I think you're going to run them. Like, you can do that. And both Chris Evans, and I like Chris Evans a lot, and Karan Higdon had over 100 rushing yards each yesterday. And look, yeah, you can do those against the weaker teams. You're not going to line up in the I form against Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State and be successful like that. Those deep, it's just not going to work. And I just feel like, I don't know for sure, but based on what I see, I believe that coaching staff believes it's not their offense, it's the execution. And that if they keep working at it, keep trying to fine tune certain, making certain blocks, running back seeing certain holes, that their offense, the way they run it, is going to be effective. And against the better teams, and I don't believe that, because you're never going to have an advantage, enough of a competitive advantage from a personnel standpoint to be able to do that. You're just not going to do it. You're going to have to, and to me, that's why Wisconsin is always limited, because they never have those elite athletes on the outside in the perimeter that can make, or quarterback for probably Russell Wilson, that can make the throws necessary to go down the field. So when Wisconsin plays in Michigan State, when they play Ohio State, that's why they always hit a wall. Yeah, they can run the ball on you effectively, and I look at Michigan very similar, but you have to be able to let your athletes be athletes. I mean, you're in if you make a few turnovers, fine. I'd much rather throw a pick, taking a vertical shot down the field, in which at the very worst case scenario, you're flipping the field, and the offense has to come back down to score, than these little quick in and outs, and you're punching the ball off anyway. So like, take your shots. You may only hit 1 or 2 or 3 a game, but it's worth it. It's just, I hate it so much, because I believe they're stubborn, and I just don't believe they're going to change. And for that's why, I kind of tweeted it out yesterday. But even though Michigan State lost, and we're kind of going to that game next, I'll end here with Michigan. Even though MSU lost, I tweeted at a Michigan fan. I'm like, I'm convinced, watching Brian Lewerke, that and just the MSU team, Michigan will lose to them this year. I'm 100% sure. I really feel like that, because, dude, watching the way that team plays, even though they lost, and if you're an MSU fan, there's a lot. They're complaining about a lot of like the coaching mistakes. It's just they're so disciplined. Their defense, they hit hard, they play physical. Felton Davis is a playmaker. Unlike what we have, they have playmakers on offense. Like Brian Lewerke, dude, he made this one play yesterday where the whole offensive line kind of collapsed, and he had to roll out to his right, make a play, basically make a play with his legs, pointed a receiver to come back, and throws a dime towards the sideline, and it's like right in the perfect spot, and the guy catches it, and it could have been easily a sack, but it turned out to be like a 40-yard gain. It's just, he has amazing pocket presence. He's a legit quarterback, and when you have that, and you have a defense that's extremely disciplined, they may not be perfect, but they're extremely disciplined. Like All-American to me, and Joe Bocci, and to me, like, the better coach. I'm sorry, Mark D'Antonio is a top 10 coach in college football, maybe top 5. I was convinced. I'm like, man, I don't know if we'll ever be at their level under Harbaugh. There's just a difference. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. It's something in the water, man. There's a difference between that focus and what they do in training camp that team has that Michigan just doesn't have. I don't see it. I don't see the playmakers. I don't see the focus and the fire that's necessary.
Well, you guys have the playmakers and the athletes, but the issue with Michigan is that, and this is just my perspective, is that Jim Harbaugh thinks his scheme and how he runs his offense is better than anyone else's defense. And what I would argue with D'Antonio is that his scheme is, granted, Dave Warner has a lot of shortcomings when it comes to offensive coordinator, a whole lot. But essentially, he is getting his athletes the ball. And it's so simple, but guys that are successful, that is what they do. As offensive coordinators, I need to get my guys who are athletes the ball. When you look at Clemson, the year that they won the title, they got Mike Williams the ball a lot.
Yeah.
When you look at Alabama and the team, Derrick Henry, the year that 2015, the year before, he got the ball a lot.
Yeah.
He was a better athlete than the other guys on the field. So you build schemes around what you have. That was, although we were a spread team, we ran the ball all the time. And that's one thing that it seems to me that Jim Harbaugh just does not do on a regular basis. Look, get your athletes the ball, and make it simple. Make it easy for them. And so, for DPJ, something is up. To me, I'm like, either your scheme is too complicated for him. Maybe you're still, running an NFL offensive playbook. But to me, the evidence is there that he can do it, because when he was with the 49ers, he had Alex Smith out there, and they were running an NFL, spread, all the normal, stuff that you see every Sunday. And when Colin Kaepernick came in, they turned into a pistol team, triple option, all that. So he can make the adjustments. He's just refusing to do it. So I don't know if he just is kind of poking his chest out like, I'm better, I'm smarter, I know more than these other guys do, and I'm just going to do it my way and we're going to win, or he's just not. I'm not quite sure what he's doing, but all I know is that for Michigan State, I feel like I don't see that. Granted, Dave Warner is super conservative, and he wants to run the ball, and he wants to out-muscle people and all that good stuff, but they get their guys the ball in space. They get their athletes the ball, and they assume that that's what's going to help them. They give Brian Lewerke the football, and they say, hey, go get it. So that's the difference. And for Harbaugh, I'll give him credit at this point right now today, is that you're not quite sure that Shea can do that, but you also have to find out if he can or can't.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, kind of with what you were saying, that 17 pass attempts in a game, that's not going to do it. That's not going to get. That's not going to really do anything. That's not going to get your quarterback in any type of flow. That's not going to give you any real evidence if he's a player or not. That just does nothing. 17 passes. There's high school kids that are getting more than that. So I don't know quite what the rationale is on that, but like I said, with D'Antonio, it seems like it's something where he wants to get his athletes the ball, and let them go win it or lose it, and that is, in its entirety, what it should be. It should be, if my athletes can make the plays, I'm going to win. If they can't, I'm going to lose. That's football.
Yeah, you got Roger Horses, man. Roger Horses.
Mm-hmm.
So quickly, in terms of MSU losing to Arizona State, look, a radio host posted a question on Twitter. Would you rather be, after both teams being 1-1, which team would you rather be, Michigan or MSU? And I say MSU, and the reason why is because, look, I know that loss hurt for a lot of MSU fans out there, but one thing we all seen time and time again is that MSU will rise to the occasion. They've done it time and time again in terms of, no matter how slow their season got, besides the anomaly in 2017 or 16, They no matter if they drop one game, a heartbreaker, against the big time games, they will show up and they have a very good shot of winning those games. So in terms of like all their goals being in front of them, that's still very very much in play for them. They didn't lose a conference game. They are still very loaded. They still to me have like the second or best quarterback in the conference. So I think all of MSU goals are very realistic and very much in front of them. So I'm not going to say the panic button should be hit there. It's a tough environment against a team that has some pretty good talent, and they lost a nail biter. I mean, it was a great game to watch, and I'm not going to put too much into it. But like I said, as opposed to Michigan. Michigan cannot win a big game. They don't show up in a big game. So, look, that's the difference. That's the crux of the issue. The crux of the issue is you have one team and one coach that knows how to galvanize his guys, get them focused, get them to rise to the occasion, compared to the other team and coach in which it's extremely talented, but the coach cannot seem to get through to his guys to get them to sustain or play at a level that's necessary to win in big games. And so I'm not going to get too worried about MSU. I think they're fine, and I think they're going to continue to play well once conference play starts.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. It's a tough loss. So here's the tough part right now with the big caliber teams, those blue bloods of Michigan State, Alabama, Ohio State, those big teams that are there, even Washington, is that you losing a game out of conference is tough because now it gives you almost no wiggle room in conference play if you plan on trying to get to the college football playoff. Because as we've seen so far, there's never been a two-loss team. Now, granted, I will say if there will ever be one, it's going to be a blue blood. It's going to be a Michigan or Oklahoma,
Ohio State,
or Florida, Alabama. It's going to be one of those teams if there is ever one. But I mean, you can't bank on that happening. Right now when you look at just the different teams and the makeup of what could potentially happen. I mean, so if you're Michigan State and Michigan, number one, Georgia's undefeated, and it's looking like they're going to roll through, the SEC, that schedule. Alabama right now is undefeated. Who knows what's going to happen? But even if you say, okay, those teams win their divisions undefeated, and they meet in the SEC title game, well, who's to be sure that the committee doesn't put two teams in the SEC in again? So now it's, you know what I mean? So you start to slowly, lose kind of hope of you possibly getting in as a two-loss, conference champion. So, now you just don't have any wiggle room. So for Michigan, same thing. You lost to Notre Dame opening weekend. So now you have to beat Wisconsin. You have to beat Michigan State. You have to beat Ohio State and Penn State. Oh, and everyone else on your schedule in order to possibly have a shot at getting to the college football playoff. Same with Michigan State. You can't lose another game. So now you run into that issue of you almost eliminate yourself before whatever, before November. And no one wants to get in that spot. So that, while you don't lose hope, yeah, the number one goal is the conference title. But at the same time too, with that being said, yeah, you want to win the conference title with hopes of that catapulting you into the college football playoff. And what we've seen from the committee is they're not afraid to take a look at it and just say, oh, well, no, we're not just going to put in all these conference champions. We're going to put in the teams that we think are the four best teams in the country. And it may or may not be you, but at this point, they've never seen a two-loss team and said, oh, yeah, I think that team right there is one of the four best teams in the country. So, you essentially you have no more wiggle room, and now, you got to win out.
Yeah, that's true. But, it's definitely possible. Look, and do I believe that MSU, when I say goals, I don't believe, maybe internally it's different. I don't believe like for MSU or Michigan getting to the college football playoff is the goal. I think winning the Big Ten title is the goal. And then
I think you're crazy.
Well, I think
you are insane.
Well, I'm just saying, like that's just what I believe the realistic goal for them right now.
Why do you what? So okay, so let's take a step back. So you're telling me what Mark D'Antonio thinks of his team and a goal that they have set for Brian Lewerke and his team is that the best we can do is win the Big Ten. That we cannot get to the college football playoff.
I didn't say cannot. That's not what I said.
No. But you're saying goals. You're saying goals. And that's not one of their goals? You're telling me that Karan Higdon, Rashawn Gary, Shea Patterson are in team meetings before the season starts that what is one of your goals? That the pinnacle of their goal is the Big Ten title, and that's it?
No, I won't say that. I'm just saying I think that's the.
All right, well, I'm just saying that's kind of what you said was that you don't think that's one of their goals. That's definitely their goal.
Well, I don't think it's their main goal. I think for them, like getting to the college football playoffs, it's like, oh, that'll be cool, that'll be great. You know, we would love to play on the biggest stage, but we want to get a championship. We want to prove that we are the top in the Big Ten, that we are top of the conference, that where all of our rivals have gone on to do in terms of winning this conference, that we also can do it. That's what I came here to do. If I'm speaking as a Michigan player, so that's what I mean by. No, that's what they've kind of wanted to do.
You gotta get out of it. Listen, I had the utmost respect for him, but you gotta get out of that bowl stuff, man. Like that, dude. That's old school stuff, man. These kids, they don't want it. That's not the pinnacle for them.
Yeah.
Of just winning the conference. Like they want to win. Yeah, championships is nice, but I mean, who won the Big Ten title game in 2015 when Alabama won the national title? You know what I mean? It was Penn State who played USC in a bowl game, and it was a nail biter. That was a great game, whatever. But at the same time, like these guys want to play in the big game. That's what they want.
Yeah.
They want.
Well, they came to the wrong school. They came to the wrong school. It ain't happening. It ain't happening on Jim Harbaugh, damn it.
Well,
so they came to the wrong school.
Notre Dame. If you want that to happen,
yeah.
You gotta be Notre Dame, but. That's what these kids want, man. You got to think about it. A lot of these kids, especially when you're a highly talented guy,
they can want what they want. They don't matter.
Those guys are winning in high school, so they're playing in playoff games in high school.
Well, I bet it's a shock right now. All that winning they did in high school, they ain't doing much winning.
They're not coming here to be like, oh well, yeah, let's just win. Let's win Indianapolis, and then that's it. Let's move on.
Well, they about to be.
They're trying to win it all.
Look, well, they about to be really disappointed. I can tell you that much. You ain't getting to the college football playoffs. Not with this coach. I'm sorry. I do not see it. I believe they're archaic. The best shot that this team has to ever get to the college football playoff is to have. I don't know. It won't be under Jim Harbaugh, and they're going to need a transcendent talent at quarterback. Other than that, they would never, ever be on that level. I just don't see it. I do not see it. I don't whatsoever.
In that case, the recruiting class that you had this past season is just a foreshadowing of things to come.
I believe that anyway.
You're not going to get the top guys with this performance. 8-5 is not going to do it.
Yeah.
9-3 is not going to do it.
Yeah.
And 10-2 is not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not gonna do it. So I mean, if that's how you truly feel, then you've got another 4 or 5 years of 20 and below recruiting classes, because you're not getting the best guys with results like that.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I guess I'm so soured on this coaching staff because just the lack of, I don't know, man. Like I just, you know how nostalgia kind of blinds, or kind of.
I think here's the the best example of how archaic Michigan is. Nick Saban throws the ball more than you guys do.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, honestly, that is it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Nick Saban throws the ball more than you guys do. And granted, he doesn't call offense, whatever, but he has OCs there that we're now running the spread. We're running tempo. We're throwing the ball a lot more. Like that. I mean, that should be it. Is that that's just crazy to me. Like when you think about it. Jim Harbaugh, who is a Division I quarterback, NFL quarterback, dude, you think this is still gonna win you national championships and big time games of this basic offense of I formation, let's run the ball, dude, that's just not going to work. Defensive
Well,
coordinators
look,
are just too good.
according to Karan Higdon, they feel like they fixed their offense. He said some kind of quote like, "Well, we feel like we proved our offense today." Look, man, good job. You had a good game. I'm sorry, it was against Western Michigan. All right, let me see you ground and pound like that against the big boys, and then let's talk. I don't want to hear nothing about we fixed our offense. I don't want to hear that. No one wants to hear it.
After rivalry week and you play Ohio State, let me see, Higdon, you going for 150, 160,
yes,
and all that good stuff. Then we'll talk about the offense being fixed. But 49 or 40 whatever you scored against Western doesn't really move the needle for me.
No, not at all. And that's what kind of sucks about this is because the next 3 or 4 weeks there'll be nothing. Cause I thought Northwestern would be like a game they can like at least get something out of, but apparently they losing to Duke now at home. So look, yeah. So look. You got basically 3 or 4 weeks, including this past weekend, to just kind of get your offense back together. So I hope it is for when you go against Wisconsin, because you're going Wisconsin and then MSU the following week, because you're going to need it, Karan. Okay, so look, I'm not.
Hey, don't be going at it. College kid. Let him live his best
man, I'm
life.
just saying, dude, hey man, you put your quotes out there, then you putting yourself out there, bro. All right, so next, before we wrap up, so. My hot take, we're gonna do a new little bit. Every video we got at least bring one hot take to the table. So my hot take, based on what I see so far, Jimbo Fisher, within the next 4 to 5 years, we get Texas A&M to the college football playoff. Yes, I said it. You heard it first from me. Jimbo Fisher.
4 to 5 years?
Yes, Jimbo Fisher will get Texas A&M. The Aggies, okay, the 12th man to the college football playoff within the next 4 to 5 years. Your thoughts?
Well, good luck with that. I don't see it, man. I think what happened on Saturday, and this is what you're reacting to, was you saw a team in Clemson who fell asleep, who thought they would just, zombie walk through a Saturday and beat Texas A&M, and you saw a team in A&M that played to their past their ceiling. They played lights out, and they still lost. So that's the tough part. Honestly, I'm concerned with Clemson after seeing that game. I'm like, I'm not quite sure they are who we thought they were. But
well, follow your rule. Hold on a second. Let me cut. I gotta stop you right here, Taylor. Hold on, Taylor. I'm gonna let you finish, but hold on. All right, for real. Des, follow your rule. What do you say about college kids? You said at least once a year, these kids, they get caught up in the hype. They get distracted sometimes. Every blue moon, there's a Saturday in which they sleepwalk. So, why has this changed? Why don't you apply that rule to the Clemson?
Well, so here's my concern is, number one, if you pick this to be the game that you sleepwalk, you have other games in the ACC. You got Duke, who just beat Northwestern. There's other teams in the ACC that you've got to get ready for.
Like who? Florida State. Florida State struggled with Sanford. I don't even know what if they're. I think they're like Division I AA. Okay, like please.
They might be Division III, like how I played in college. Okay, so they're not good. But nonetheless, I guess my issue is if you're look, like I said, it does happen where you sleepwalk. You think you're just gonna roll over somebody, and that team, played to they have an all-world game, and they start going. They play out of their minds. But to me, I don't know, man. I don't know. To me, even when you're sleepwalking, you should look a little better than what A&M or than what Clemson did against A&M. So I don't know. I might be off, but I don't know. To me, I guess my thing is Clemson should be able to sleepwalk against Texas A&M and still beat them by 2-3 touchdowns. Like, Clemson's that good. That, I guess that's my, my concern on why they looked as bad as they did. That's my concern. Even if you're sleepwalking, you should be able to beat them by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, I stick to my hot take. Jimbo will get them to the college football playoff.
Good luck. Unless Jimbo has another brother Jameis coming in at Texas A&M, which I
Hey, he in Texas, baby.
Yeah, no, I just the teams that have the head start on him, I'm not quite sure. Like Kirby just getting started. So you're telling me that number one, so Kirby's going to own the East for the next probably 10 years. Georgia's going to own the East next 10 years. So you're telling me within that time, A&M is going to have an undefeated season.
Yes.
And their only loss is going to be to Georgia in the SEC title game, and then they're going to get it.
Yes.
You sound crazy.
Okay. You just remember
You're
what
crazy.
I said.
I'll tell you that for sure.
Do you have a hot take?
That's not going to happen. Do I have a hot take?
Yeah.
I'll give you this. I will tell you before Texas A&M gets in the Final Four, UCLA will be there. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Did you watch him this past weekend? I watched him against Oklahoma, and it was not pretty.
But, I mean, outside of probably West Virginia, Oklahoma's going to do that to everybody this year. They're going to do it to everybody. And also, I don't know if you saw early on, that game was tight.
It was.
It was a tight game.
That's why I
on.
tuned in. Yeah.
And here's the thing that a lot of people don't really care much about, but I do, is in those tight games, and I'll kind of go back to my Big 12 pick of West Virginia, but in those games, early to midway through that first half, I look at how those teams are performing, how they're playing well, and Oklahoma was stalling out on a good amount of those drives. So my concern is when you get to that point. So usually when you're playing a team that you're better than, early first quarter, early in the game, there's gonna be a little bit of back and forth where, all right, we went 3 and out, we punted, whatever. But once you get to like midway through that, when you get to that second quarter, and once you start getting into that second quarter, that's usually when you should start separating. And for Oklahoma, I didn't see them really separate at that point. So that makes me think that when you're playing really good teams, that it's going to be the same, right? You're not going to separate a lot in that second quarter. So then you go into the halftime, and then you make adjustments, and then when you come back in the third quarter, that's when you see the adjustments, what happens with those adjustments. And my concern is how Kyler Murray is going to be making those adjustments when he's not up, 14, 21, 28 of how he plays. I mean, and I'm not to say that I don't think the kid is good. I think he's really good. But at the same time, you never know how a quarterback's going to respond when he's in that tough environment. Like for Shea Patterson, everybody thought Shea was going to light it up, week 1, and it was a tough environment against a good defense. So you just never know, and that kind of takes me back to
some good defense. Notre Dame was struggling with Ball State. Ball State made Brandon Wimbush throw 3 picks. Now we know he's not a good passer, but Ball State played a better game. And I know, I'm just being a little over the top right now. I know that it's kind of a, teams do this all the time. They'll play a big game and the following week against a weaker opponent, they'll play a little bit down. I get it, but I'm just saying, yeah, go ahead with this whole Notre Dame good defense. Just saying they gave us 16 points to Ball State. Just all that you know that.
I mean, I don't think Notre Dame's a good defense. I think they don't look bad. But anyway,
so you think Michigan was just that bad?
That's my concern. I think UCLA has been here before Texas A&M, and I think the big difference is a lot of people look at Oregon and say that, oh well, as soon as Chip, was a head coach, things will roll in, so on and so forth. That's true, but he was also the OC there before he got promoted to the head coaching spot.
Yeah.
So his offense was already in. His offensive culture was already there before he ever was the head coach. So that's a little bit different. It's not like he was a plug and play type head coach. His foundation was already laid. So I think that's a little bit different. It's going to take a little time at UCLA, but I mean, I don't know, man. If you're a California recruit and UCLA with Chip Kelly comes, knocking at your door, or USC with who's their coach right now? I
have no idea. Drawing a blank.
Exactly. So who you gonna sign with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. Unfortunately, it's like who are the names that are walking through your living room? So that if we're saying hot take, I think UCLA will be there before Texas A&M, and I think it'll be within 5 years.
Okay, okay. Well, we pretty much kind of hit everything we wanted to hit. So look, my last notes, and I'll let you leave your last notes too. Is I don't really have much to say about Michigan the next few weeks. We'll do our recap videos, but there will be no hot take I'll have about that team until they play a big time opponent. There'll be nothing. There's nothing about blowing out SMU, blowing out Northwestern. Nebraska. Now I don't know if you watched this Nebraska and Colorado game. That was actually a very good game. I was locked into it the whole time. Adrian Martinez. This is kind of a hot take, but he will be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Just saying, he's very, very good. Now, unfortunately, I don't know the injury news. He did get hurt midway through that fourth quarter in that game, so I don't know if he'll be available versus Michigan. But Nebraska will give us problems. I guarantee you that. But anyway, I don't like that. That may be a game that I look to based on if Adrian Martinez plays or not. My point is that I would not have a hot take to go about Michigan, about them correcting this ship, righting the ship until they play their next big time game at home versus Wisconsin. Other than that, I got nothing to say about them. Your thoughts, and what is your last take?
I mean, I'm with you. I think that, I think one thing you should, have some satisfaction in with Michigan is that they did not come out flat against Western. That happens a lot with teams where you come off a tough game, a big game that, the next week you have a cupcake opponent and you sleepwalk. These are 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. It just happens. So, this takes some solace in that. For me, man, Alabama. I think, the last two games they've had, it's all fine and dandy. It's great. But, like I said, I'm a Saban disciple, so you always taper your expectations. But this week, going into the Grove, man, Ole Miss, it's going to be – I'm going to see number one on the list. All this offense Alabama is for real.
Your phone.
Last years, Alabama's lost to Ole Miss twice out of those 5 years. So, while in general and overall we do pretty well in the SEC and the national scope, for whatever reason, Ole Miss has had our number. And typically, the quarterbacks that give us problems are guys who can fling it and guys who are mobile at quarterback. So. It's going to be a big game. It's going to be a night game. I think it's 7 o'clock kickoff. The Grove is something magical, man. So it's a big game. Big game, SEC opener, and we'll see what Alabama's all about.
Yeah, we'll see what old Tua going to do in the OG at the Old Grove. All right, man. But hey, guys, thanks again. If you whoever does view this video, we appreciate it. Please subscribe. Leave comments. We welcome all criticism. We want to improve every podcast. So thank you again for your time. Looking forward to this Lions win tomorrow. Now we've done mostly college. We've done mostly college on these podcasts, but we do go into the NFL pretty tough too. So within the next week, maybe midweek. Me and Dez will release our NFL podcast as well, and kind of really dive into what we see in the National Football League. So, go Lions, go Blue, roll Tide, and and we see y'all next time.